26.2 is going to feature a bunch of nerfs to OP champs from last patch like Nunu, Malphite, and Gwen. We have a pretty big nerf to the new support item Vandal Pipes, and then both of the new ADC items are receiving buffs. So lots of potential meta-shifting changes in this patch, and as always, we're here to break it all down for you guys and provide an update to the solo queue tier list for every single role. And if you guys want to stay ahead of the meta for Season 16, then SkillCapped is the place to be. We've got a new course for this year that our challenger players will be working on, and it revolves around keeping you up to date with all the new meta trends. As soon as we discover something new, you can expect a video to go live within that course, breaking down exactly what we found. Whether it be a new build, strategy, or rune setup, SkillCapped subscribers will be the first to know with access to this course. On top of this, we've got our weekly commentaries where our challenger experts walk you through how to carry out of the exact rank you're stuck in. We always upload 10 brand new commentaries each week focused on covering the best champions in meta. And then of course, you'll get access to our entire catalog of premium courses as you'll be mastering wave control, vision, trading, and macro in no time. And the best part of it all is that we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee. Climb at least 5 divisions while actively using SkillCapped or get your money back, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the top right corner of the screen or in the description below to get ahead of everyone else for Season 16. So as per usual, we'll start off by looking at all the item changes and discuss which champions will be impacted the most. Vandal Pipes will be hit with a nerf as the cost is going up from 2,000 to 2,300 gold. Nearly every single melee support was running Vandal Pipes in 26.1, and it had around a 3% better win rate than Locket, so that gap will close quite a bit for 26.2. After all, Vandal Pipes shouldn't just be the best rush item in every single game. Choosing between Locket and Vandal Pipes, depending on if you value more offensive or defensive power, is something you should have to consider, and hopefully this nerf accomplishes that. The new attack speed item for ADCs called Fiend Hunter Bolt will have its attack speed increased from 40 to 45%, and passive guaranteed crit damage is going up from 75 to 80%. Passive bonus true damage on crit is being increased as well from 10 to 15%. So Fiend Hunter really wasn't a terrible item in 26.1, but most of the champions who were running it were underperforming as a whole. As a result, we can expect a small boost in power for Yanara, Zeri, Twitch, Vayne, and Ashe. However, these item changes alone likely aren't enough to result in those champs gaining a significant amount of power. Hex Optic C44 is going to be an item you'll want to keep an eye on for 26.2 because it's receiving 2 buffs. AD is up from 50 to 55, while the distance that you need to be away from your opponents to reach max passive damage is going from 700 to 600. This will be interesting for Caitlyn in specific because her auto range is 650. So prior to this change, she couldn't get the max value if spacing perfectly, but now she will be able to. Ashe has 600 auto range as well, so there could be potential for her to run the item, but we think it's less likely. Champs like Jinx, Tristana, and Twitch, who have auto range enhancers in their kits, are who should have the most potential alongside Caitlyn. So moving on to the top lane changes now. Aatrox is receiving a buff for this patch, with his passive bonus damage going from 4 scaling to 8% to 4 scaling to 12%. Q monster damage is up as well from 15 to 25. Aatrox ended up losing about 1% win rate to start Season 16, so this buff should bring him back to around the same power level he was to close out Season 15, and we'll be moving him from B into A tier. Malphite is going to receive a few much needed nerfs, with his E damage dropping from 80 scaling to 240 to 60 scaling to 200. E mana cost is going up from 50 flat to 50 scaling to 70, and then R cooldown is being increased by 10 seconds at rank 2 and by 20 seconds at rank 3 in the spell. There's also a change to Malphite's W damage to monsters, but this one will impact jungle way more than top lane. So 20 damage off on E at rank 1 is quite significant, and then combined with the higher R cooldown later on should lead to Malphite losing a good chunk of power. We don't expect Malphite to be a terrible pick with these nerfs. In fact, he should still be top tier, but we'll be moving him from OP into S. So since it's only Aatrox and Malphite nerf for this patch, the tier list doesn't have too many significant changes for 26.2. With Malphite dropping out of the OP tier, we are filling up the 3 spots with Riven, Kennen, and Ornn. Riven and Kennen are both extremely powerful for Season 16 because of their snowball potential and ability to take Ignite. Ornn and Kayle are 2 champs who have been loving Season 16 because the role quest provides you with more experience. Kayle scales incredibly well with levels because of her passive, giving her so much strength at level 11 and 16, while Ornn wants to reach level 13 as quick as possible so he can begin upgrading items. Even though Varus isn't a traditional top laner, he's been finding really good success so far this season with an AP build, and he gets even stronger for 26.2 with his direct buffs. The buffs are aimed more so at helping bot lane Varus, but top Varus will most definitely benefit too. The build that you need to try right now consists of a Dusk and Dawn rush into Nashor's Tooth second. Dusk and Dawn is so strong for top lane Varus because he is able to proc press the attack in 1 less auto and gets 2 stacks of his W passive after using a spell. The overall burst threat of Varus when running this setup is amazing and makes his all-in power against melee tops very broken. Top Varus was already up around a 51% win rate prior to these buffs, so we're moving him into S tier for 26.2. Even though Gwen jungle is being nerfed, top lane Gwen is not, and she's incredibly powerful with the new item Dusk and Dawn. Gwen, Varus, Kayle, and Volibear are 4 top lane champs who are really strong, strong and fun to play for Season 16 because of their ability to abuse Dusk and Dawn. We've got a couple of junglers on the buff list for this patch, and first up is Master Yi. Yi will be getting some additional armor growth as it's being increased from 4.2 to 4.5, and then Q on hit modifier is going up from 65 to 75%. So what this Q change means damage-wise is that when you are on your Kraken spike and you proc the Kraken passive with your Q, it's going to be around a 13 damage boost. So all in all, nothing groundbreaking for Master Yi, and these buffs will not turn him into an S tier jungler, but he was just shy of A tier last patch, so we'll be giving him the bump from B into A. Taliyah jungle has not been in the meta for a while, but Riot wants to change that for 26.2. Q bonus monster damage is going up from 20 flat to 20 scaling to 40, while E monster damage is being increased from 190 to 225%. So even though Taliyah jungle had less than a 1% play rate in 26.1, her win rate was up above 50%. This is really interesting, because have players actually just been heavily underrating Taliyah, and these buffs that Riot are issuing are simply to make people aware that she still exists? We can honestly see Taliyah fitting into this faster paced style of League for Season 16, as she's got the long range gap close with R, so combined with home guards no longer falling off when you exit base, Taliyah's ability to get around the map is incredibly elevated for Season 16. There's a good chance that with these buffs going through, Taliyah suddenly becomes an S tier jungler, but for now, we're going to be placing her in A, as S may be a little too optimistic. Riot ended up overnerfing Viego a little bit too much in 26.1 because of crit damage going up, so they're giving him some power back in 26.2. Attack speed growth is being increased from 2.25 to 2.75%, while Q on hit crit ratio is up from 50 to 70%, and Q active crit ratio is up from 50 to 60%. So we see a similar trajectory with these buffs as to what we are expecting with Master Yi, as Viego won't be back in an S tier spot, but he'll be a good A tier pickup. Gwen has been an OP tier jungler throughout 26.1, so Riot has a nerf lined up to her clear speed, as passive monster damage is dropping from 5 to 3, while AP ratio is down from 10 to 5%. Considering Gwen jungle is up around a 53% win rate, even with these nerfs being issued, we can't see her falling off that hard, and will only be adjusting her from OP into S. One jungler we are a bit surprised is being nerfed for 26.2 is Jace. So Jace jungle wasn't actually performing that well in 26.1, sitting below a 49% win rate even in the higher tiers of play. So Riot's going to be slowing down Jace's clear, with his Q bonus monster damage dropping from 50 to 25. And when you take into account that Jace has his two forms, the nerf is going to be more significant for him than it would be for most other champs. We really can't see Jace being a very strong pick after these nerfs, considering he wasn't even a top performing champ before them. So we're going to be dropping Jace down into the jungle C tier. Lilia has been a top tier jungler throughout 26.1, so she's going to receive two scaling nerfs. The first is to her passive, with the monster heal AP ratio going down from 15 to 9%. Q damage AP ratio will be reduced as well, dropping from 35 to 30%. So with these nerfs being issued, at the very most we could see Lilia dropping down to A tier, but by no means will they make her a terrible jungler, so for now, we're going to keep her placed in S. Malphite jungle is very likely a dead champion for 26.2, because not only will he receive the same E and R nerfs that top lane is getting, but jungle Malphite is also being tagged with a W monster damage nerf, as it's going from 200 to 180%. We had jungle Malphite rated up in the S tier for 26.1, but we can't see him being any better than B tier with these nerfs coming through, so we're dropping him down for 26.2. Nunu is going to receive 3 different nerfs for this patch, and deservedly so, as his win rate eclipsed 54% in 26.1. Q cooldown is dropping from 12 scaling to 8 seconds to 13 scaling to 9 seconds. W max damage is dropping from 180 scaling to 360 to 150 scaling to 330. And then E damage per hit is going down from 16 scaling to 48 to 14 scaling to 42, while EAP ratio is being lowered from 15 to 12%. So where exactly Nunu lands power-wise is tough to say, because even if he loses 3% win rate, which isn't out of the question, he would still remain a good jungler. Nunu is just so inflated in 26.1 that even nerfs this harsh could still lead to him being in a strong state. For that reason, we're only going to be moving him down 1 tier for now, going from OP into S, but there's definitely a chance he remains OP, and we could have to move him back up for mid-patch. And then one of the biggest nerfs of the patch is going to Zed, with his passive monster damage being lowered from 180 to 120%. One of the biggest draws to playing Zed jungle is the fact that he's able to clear faster than any other jungler. Other than his fast clear though, he's really nothing special as a jungler, so the fact Riot's nerfing what makes him so powerful means we see him losing a lot of relative power. So we're going to be dropping Zed significantly further down the jungle tier list, going from S into B. So with Gwen and Nunu nerfed in 26.1 and dropping out of the OP tier, we're going to be promoting Diana up alongside Echo. You can bet that Riot will be closely tracking Dusk and Dawn users in 26.2, because if they continue to overperform, then the item is very likely next in line for a nerf in 26.3. Echo and Diana are two of the best Dusk and Dawn users, so the easiest way to reduce the strength of both those champs at the same time is giving the item a nerf. Dusk and Dawn just feels way too powerful on Echo specifically, because it completely changes how his trading patterns work. The fact that you don't need to auto attack to proc your passive now and can simply use Q into E gives Echo so much immediate upfront burst that it's very hard to counter. counter. The overall theme of the jungle meta should remain pretty similar to last patch, with AP junglers' relative power going up this season and AD junglers on the weaker side. Junglers who can really abuse the home guards to their fullest potential are incredible right now, so Rammus and Nunu are two champs that are thriving in Season 16. So a bit of a rare case for 26.2, as mid lane does not have a single champion who's being changed for this patch. What we're seeing out of the mid lane meta for the start of the year is that champions who either have strong roam power or strong side lane power have seen a boost in strength. Aurelion Sol and Twisted Fate are two in specific that are excelling so far because the new home guards changes allow them to be on the map faster, forcing picks with their semi-global spells. Kassadin is really liking Season 16 because you actually get rewarded for split pushing. In Season 15, if you tried to split push at 20 minutes with Kassadin, then you'd run the risk of your team throwing the game at Otacon. Otacon removal has been so refreshing because it actually feels like your mid-game macro decisions mean a lot more now. Before it was just, okay, well, Otacon is up, so I guess I've got to head down bot lane. Whereas now you can actually look to side lane bot because Baron is pretty difficult to take at 20 minutes. So not only Kassadin, but Aurelia, Pantheon, and Sion mid are all looking really strong right now because they are champs who love side laning. Aurelia's win rate for mid lane jumped up 2% for this season, so she was actually one of the biggest risers. So down to the bot lane now, we have a few champs getting buffed, and first up is Ashe. Ashe will have her AD growth increased from 3 to 3.5, so this means an additional 9 AD when you reach level 18. It's not just the direct buff that Ashe can benefit from though, as she's been liking Fiend Hunter bolts as a second purchase, so with that in mind, we're going to be pushing Ashe back up into S tier for 26.2. Varus has started off the year holding the second lowest win rate for ADC, only ahead of Ezreal, so he's receiving 2 buffs for 26.2. Q max damage is going up from 80 scaling to 360 to 80 scaling to 400, while W on hit damage is being increased from 6 scaling to 38 to 8 scaling to 44. So this buff should provide a small boost in power, but nothing that makes Varus a top tier pick, so we'll be promoting him from C into B tier. So complete opposite to Varus, Sivir was one of the highest win rate ADCs in 26.1, so she's receiving 2 nerfs with her armor growth going down from 4.45 to 4, and attack speed growth is dropping from 2 to 1.6%. So whether these nerfs are enough to drop Sivir out of the S tier is a bit of a toss-up. We can't see her falling any farther than A tier just because of how powerful she was prior to these nerfs. So for now, we'll be leaving her in S, but if the nerfs do hit on the harsher side, we may adjust her down for mid-patch. And then one more ADC who's getting nerfed for this patch is Smolder, as his armor growth is going down from 4.7 to 4. Smolder has been thriving in Season 16 due to the Essence Reaver changes, and even with a nerf like this coming through, we can't see him dropping off that much. For now, we're going to leave Smolder placed in the S tier, but as we mentioned for Sivir, there is a chance he could fall as far as A. So if we have a look at the complete ADC tier list, there's one champ who's going to remain as the lone OP pick of the patch, and it's Jinx. So Jinx was already excelling a ton in 26.1, while Smolder and Sivir were the only 2 champs who were close to her power level. So the fact both Smolder and Sivir are nerfed for 26.2, it just turns Jinx into the unanimous OP ADC. We have to remember as well that Hex Optic C44 is buffed for this patch, so that's going to be helping out Jinx even more. The item buffs are definitely what have the potential to impact the meta the most for 26.2, so we'll keep you guys in the loop if any new optimal builds pop up. And speaking of optimal setups, there's a rune page that you need to be taking on all of your ADCs before it gets nerfed. Regardless of who you're playing, taking cashback as one of your runes is a must on ADC right now. Cashback has gained value on ADC for this season due to the additional item slot that the role has, and it's also just incredibly valuable to help accelerate into your core items faster. Remember, you also get 300 bonus gold immediately upon completing your quest, so in addition to taking cashback, you can hit your item spikes way faster in Season 16. And of course, SkillCapped subscribers have already known about this for a while because we uploaded a video to our meta updates course last week, and within this course, you're going to find all the most timely updates on anything new that becomes optimal for solo queue. Ezreal is currently the only ADC who's really struggling the start of the season. He wasn't doing that great prior to the Essence Reaver nerfs, and then once Riot nerfed ER because many of the other ADCs were overperforming with it, Ezreal just fell even further. So Ezreal and Kalista will be the only ADCs in the C tier for this patch, as Yunara is going to benefit from Fiend Hunter buffs, so she'll move out, and then Varus is directly buffed, so he's moving out as well. So there aren't any direct changes to support champions for 26.2, but the nerf to Bandle Pipes will negatively influence melee supports. Braum should end up losing a decent amount of strength from that nerf, so we're going to drop him out of OP and leave Sona as the only OP tier support of the patch. Sona has been excelling a ton with the new item combo of Echoes of Helia into Whispering Circlet, as reaching that 2-item core is as close to a free win as you're going to get on support in 26.2. The item combo is also quite strong on Senna right now, but don't get baited into running it on mage supports. Some players have been theorizing that the build could be good for mage supports, but based on the data we have so far, it looks incredibly underwhelming. Take Brand for example. It may look cool, but in reality, the build is a 44% win rate, so unless you're just playing it for fun in normal games, it's not something you should be pulling out in ranked. Vel'Koz is also down below a 43% win rate when running the build, so it's definitely a setup best suited for enchanters only. In regards to the Bandle Pipe nerfs, it's tough to say exactly how much power melee supports will lose as a result of the change, so for now, Braum is the only champ champ will be moving down the tier list. Something worth trying for this patch is Protoplasm Harness as a rush item on melee supports if the enemy team has a lot of burst power. Protoplasm currently has a really good win rate as a rush item on Leona, Rel, Alistair, Nautilus, and Maokai, so with Bandle Pipes becoming weaker, there's even more incentive to run Protoplasm instead. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So there you have it everyone, that's a complete update on the solo queue tier list as we head into 26.2. Thank you all so much for watching, we'll see you back soon.